Hi everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder how your brain keeps track of things as you move around in the world? Think about walking forward. Objects get bigger on your screen, right? That is a predictable change. Scientists are super interested in how our brains use these predictable changes to help us see and understand the world better. They already knew our brains could predict an object's orientation if the whole scene is rotating, but they wanted to know if our brains do something similar for other changes, like predicting an object's size. So, this new study decided to find out. They asked a big question: when you move, does your brain automatically change how it sees objects to match the new distance and perspective? Here is how they tested it. Imagine you are watching a scene on a screen and a 3D object is in the middle. As the scene zooms in, the object disappears behind a gray box. While it is hidden, the scene keeps moving closer. Then, the object reappears. The clever part is, it might reappear at a size that matches the new distance in the scene, or it might be a weird size that doesn't quite fit. While this was happening, people had to do a separate, totally unrelated task, judging if two quick flashes of the object were the same or different. This was a way to see how the size expectation, without them even trying to predict size, affected their performance on a simple judgment. And guess what? It did. Even though they were only asked to judge if the object was the same or different, the size of the object and how well it fit the scene context made a difference. When the object's size matched what the scene suggested, people were better at their task. This was really cool. They even played around with how often the object reappeared with the expected size versus the unexpected size. Even when the expected size was the rare one, the brain still seemed to have this automatic expectation, and it still affected how people did on their simple same different task. This tells us that our brains are really good at picking up on these predictable patterns from the real world, like how objects get bigger as we get closer. They don't just rely on what is happening right now. They have these built-in expectations. So, what does this mean for us? It suggests that our perception isn't just about passively receiving visual information. It is an active process where our brain constantly makes predictions about what we're likely to see next based on our movement and the context of the scene. This helps us process visual information more efficiently, allowing us to navigate the world smoothly and interact with objects without having to consciously think about every little change. Even when people were told their task was only on the final images, they were still kind of nudged to pay attention to the whole sequence. And it seems like even if they tried to consciously predict things, it didn't make the effect stronger. If anything, trying too hard to predict actually made the difference smaller, suggesting these predictions are more automatic than deliberate. This is super important. It means this prediction process is happening at a level below our conscious awareness. It is like your brain is on autopilot, using what it knows about the world to prepare you for what is coming. One interesting finding was that when the object size didn't match expectations, people were a bit more likely to say the two objects were different. This might be because the unexpected size created a small conflict or surprise, like a little, moment that made them more sensitive to differences. In the experiment where the correct size appeared most of the time, people were not only more likely to say different when it was wrong, but they were also just plain better at their same different task. This suggests that when expectations are strong and usually met, it really sharpens your perception. However, when they looked at all the experiments together, the big picture showed that the brain's expectation influenced people's bias or criterion consistently. It seems like the expectation always nudged their responses a bit. The effect on how sensitive they were to differences was a bit more mixed, and didn't depend as clearly on how often the expected size appeared. The researchers think that maybe different kinds of mental changes, like rotation versus scaling, might affect our perception in different ways. Rotating something might involve finer details, which could boost sensitivity more, while scaling might be a more general change that mainly affects our bias or expectation. This research builds on previous work showing similar automatic predictions for object rotation. It points to a broader principle: when we move, our scene context automatically helps our brain update its internal model of objects. It is like the scene provides a dynamic blueprint. What is next for this kind of research? Well, they're wondering if these predictions would be even stronger if we were actively moving, like in virtual reality instead of just watching a screen. They also want to explore if adding more natural depth cues, like how your two eyes see slightly different images, would change things. And they're also curious about what exactly our brain is imagining happening behind that occluder? Is it a detailed mental picture, or just a more abstract sense of where the object should be and how big it should be? These are fascinating questions about how our minds represent and update information about the world. So, the big takeaway is that your brain is a prediction machine, especially when you are moving. The way a scene changes as you move automatically guides your brain to expect certain transformations in objects, like changes in size. This helps you see the world more effectively. And it happens without you even consciously trying. Pretty neat, huh? What do you think about this? Does it make sense with your own experiences? Let me know in the comments below, and if you found this as interesting as I did, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science decoded, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the amazing world of the human mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.